My friend, and he's a consultant in Louisiana, and he's much more entertaining than I am. I need to just talk with him.
Thank you, Trey. Can you get us loaded up?
Yeah.
I feel a little awkward today because there's people in this room I ask questions about cotton too, and I'm sitting up here talking to them about cotton. And so they asked me several months ago, you know, I've spoken at this meeting I think 5 times. I've talked about rice, soybeans twice, corn, now I'm talking about cotton. So this will probably be my retirement speech right here from this meeting because I don't know if anything else I'm going to be able to speak about after that because y'all don't want to hear me talk about sweet potatoes. So, but anyway, I'll tell you about Trey Price. Trey and I knew each other before we knew each other. We both went to Louisiana Tech back in the 90s. And we took most all of our agronomy and IPM classes together. I sat at the front of the room like a nerd. Trey was in the back of the room. And Richard, you were at Tech. You know how small some of those classes are whenever you're at Tech. It ain't but 5 or 6 of us in there and all that stuff. Trey Price and I never spoke to each other the whole time we were at Tech. All right. So I ended up in Winsboro, where Trey's from and everything. I married a wife. She's from Winsboro. Well, we get moved in. Trey and I get to know each other. We ended up being next door neighbors. And I had sinus surgery. I forget what it was. I had a surgery. And my wife up decides, we're going to move the weekend you have surgery. And so thank goodness Trey Price was there to bail me out of that. And so anyway, we got to be good friends. But I said, it's kind of funny. I always say you're going to keep the friends that you made in college. You know, wherever you ended your education, that's where your friends are going to be. Well, I said, I guess it just took us a little while longer for our paths to meander around. But anyway, I thank Trey for his efforts. He's walked a bunch of fields with me, helping me diagnose target spot, looked at Blaine Lee's fields with me and everything. So we're lucky to have Trey, and I appreciate him. So in Louisiana, most of us consultants, we're pretty happy because cotton acres is on the rise. And especially in my area, kind of north of I-20, where I call home, by golly, we're not going to have to drive all day to see a cotton field. And so that's a lot of excitement. But also, we're going to have cotton planted into a lot of fields that have been kind of cotton-free for the last probably 8 to 10 years. Todd knows what I'm talking about. There's going to be some cotton in places we haven't seen cotton in forever. And that's pretty exciting, too. And I said, we've eradicated the boll weevil not because we sprayed it to death. It's because we quit planting cotton. All right? So we're ahead on that. And so we've also going to have a bunch of brand new producers who have never planted cotton before. I hear every day of several guys that never have planted cotton, they're diving in. So that's going to be exciting. So I tell people, you got to be geared up for success. You've got to have a game plan. You don't just go out to the field, plant cotton in the dirt, and make 3 bales the acre. All right, you got to start this time of year going to meetings and say, all right, what all do I have to do? These guys all have game plans. Ric Flair wasn't a 16-time world champ just because he showed up, all right? By golly, he did it. Bobby Boucher, Mr. Coach Klein, they had plans. Don Cook, best in the world, has a plan. So anyway, this is where it gets boring now, all right? I'm not going to lie to you. So we're going to talk about soil fertility, weeds, diseases, and insects, picks management, irrigation, and probably the biggest question that you're going to hear, cotton farmers, consultants, when do I quit a cotton crop? When do I walk out? When do I tap out? When do I punt? And so anyway, so at this point, this is where y'all get involved because it's going to turn into a big discussion because I'm not going to be able to preach to y'all about what y'all need to be doing. But I thought it could be good to have a discussion about what do y'all think are important or discuss a few ideas that y'all say. So we all want to see a cotton field look like that come September. And like I said, got to have a game plan to get there. Whenever we were hired to check this guy's crop that year, we went in there and he was wanting to interview us to check his crop. Well, we ended up interviewing him. It's like, if you're not going to want to make 3 bales to the acre, you don't need to farm cotton. Now, that's just the truth. Wouldn't you say that, David? I mean,
you need to play poker, you can play.
That's what to say. Exactly. So anyway, cotton fertility is probably the backbone, the basis, the everything whenever it comes to doing this. And I'm going to tell you something. These new cotton varieties, they love potassium. They can't get enough of that stuff. And so when over the years in Louisiana, where we've seen our cotton acres narrowed down to is Catahoula, Concordia, East Carroll along the river, Tensall along the river, Madison Parish in some places. Most of those soils are full of potassium compared to Macon Ridge and compared to some other places. So naturally, you've got a leg up in the game right there just by having some available potash more than what we can do on the ridge. But these varieties absolutely love potash. For you guys that are pulling soil samples, especially here in the state, and I don't know what they're doing up there in your neck of the woods, David, but I would say of probably the few thousand acres of soil samples that I looked at for my clients, I dare say 90% were low in sulfur. You and I discussed this yesterday. I don't know, Richard, what they're doing in your neck of the woods, if sulfur's showing up low or not. Little low. But anyway, you need to be mindful about this on all of our acres, not just cotton. In cotton, you're going to be looking at about from a 6-to-1 ratio, or maybe, it just depends, but usually it's a 6-to-1 to 10-to-1 ratio. You're going to want that much sulfur for every, pounds of nitrogen. Now, nitrogen, we could probably get a battle royale started in this room talking about nitrogen use in cotton. All right. I detest going out with too much nitrogen on cotton. Everything that Trey's talked about with all these diseases flaring up, directly related to too much nitrogen on cotton.
How much is too much?
Well, I'll turn it over to you. Now, this is me. I'm no fertility expert. And I'm just a simple-minded agronomist that likes bugs, But anyway, it's a field-by-field thing. But I can tell you, if you're on a sandy loam dirt, silt loam dirt, and it's been in corn for the last 5 years, and you put out over 80 or 90 units of nitrogen, you have messed up. You have messed up. And now, if you're in a sharky clay situation, and you got just pure gumbo mud, now I'm all for 130, 40 units of nitrogen. Even after the corn, But now on your better, I call it corn dirt now because it's not cotton dirt anymore. But yeah, on the old cotton dirt, you can get yourself in a bind with too much nitrogen. And so I would really advise you to, if you've been blowing and going hard on a bunch of corn fertilizer and stuff like that, be really mindful on some of the dang good dirt, how much nitrogen you're putting out on it. Or you can really fertilize it well and make Tim Ford and the Syngenta guys happy. We'll have a bunch of target spots. So anyway, going to move into some of our pests now. Everybody knows what these things are. That's pigweed up there. That's a bollworm right there. That's target spot. Trey covered that quite well, I think. And but you got to have a game plan for these things. If you're out of the cotton game for a little while, you've got to know what are you going to do if you see that pigweed. You got to know that before you plant that cotton seed, what's your game plan going to be. All right, that bollworm right there in Louisiana, I'm just going to say it. You better have a diamide going out on that critter. Don't put out a paraethroid. You're wasting your time and going to flare some mites. That's all you're going to do. That right there, like I said, there's ways to lessen the severity of this, but some of it's going to be in PICS management and nitrogen management, which is something I can tell you I don't have all the answers to. I wish I was a better person at timing PICS and getting it right. But anyway, so you have a benefit to spraying bugs. All right, so you see a plant bug up there, you're going to call your aerial applicator. You see where those wings are? Look at that. I'm not old enough. I didn't take that picture, but and God loved the person that did, because he probably died of cancer, because that's probably arsenic coming out of that plane if I had to guess. But I said that's a pretty bad deal. So anyway, you can kind of see where this whole thing's going. We got to spray for plant bugs. Most of the time, you're going to be putting out Transform or a labeled rate of imidacloprid or Diamond or something like that. But, some of our mixes are going to be very prone from going from this to this, and then all of a sudden we've got this, which is going to lead to this. And so that was one of the things I was going to be mindful of in approaching cotton as a game plan, is knowing whenever you spray for that, you got to be on the lookout for that, because it's coming. in a lot of our places. And so if there's a way to do that where it's not going to cause that, I'd like to know. But like I said, the less trips you can make with some of these pyrethroids and OPs, I'm not saying it's going to eliminate that, but you won't be shooting yourself in the foot. So cotton growth regulator use. I wish that, like I said, I've never met a person with the answer to this that does it absolutely perfect on every field every year. All I can say is that right there, whenever you mismanage your picks, it can look like that, where you got a bunch of bowl rot, hard lock, and it just gets out of hand. Start leading to our diseases that Trey talks about, stuff like that. Now this right here, I took a picture of this because this is one of the variety trials I do at my farm. You can kind of see every 4 rows is a little bit different. Every year on my farm, I'd throw away a label on picks. You just gonna have to. You get 64 ounces in a year. All right. Tell them I said it. Throw the label away. You're gonna need more than 64 ounces most of the time. All right. But now you can see everything was treated the same. I had a high boy, did it all the same. You can tell. Little whip up in the top, little whip, a little bit taller, a little bit taller, a little bit shorter, a little bit taller, a little bit shorter. That one right there, that was Delta Pine 1311. You remember that one, Dan? Y'all probably planted it more up in y'all's way, didn't you? What I'm saying is, these varieties are all different. There's no cookie cutter recommendation that you can go by and say this, this, and this. So some of them, like I said, they're all going to be a little bit different in how you do it. But the main thing to say, you can see down the middles right there. And usually you don't think of cotton being that good if you can see down the middles. You want that cotton opened up, man, you want it lapped in the middles and just a postcard and all this stuff. That one outpicked every other variety out there in the shortest cotton I had. And so some of it was variety, but I'm just saying there's no penalty for getting happy with picks. I mean, everybody's thinking, oh, I'm going to hurt my cotton, going to hurt my cotton. Chad Nelson and I, I've had to do a lot of learning in the last 4 or 5 years on picks, all right? Because I grew up on the Macon Ridge where we were scared to death to put out picks on cotton. It was taught to us to be scared of picks putting out cotton. Well, that's a lie. You ain't going to hurt it. And so don't be scared. Get happy with it. And it's cheap, too. It's like 10 cents an ounce, crying out loud. This is another battle royale for us here. When do you start irrigating and when to finish? I'll leave it up to you guys. When do y'all start, David?
Too damn early. I think we water too late. Start too early and water too late.
I'm of the opinion we may be watering too much.
That one guy run out of money, never rode out the poly pipe on one field, best field cut in the air.
Yep. I mean,
One time.
right. I think, this is just me, I think we're far more apt to overwater cotton than underwater. And I think, whenever you start adding in a little bit of extra nitrogen and a little bit too much water, and then that's when we have to start calling Trey, to come look at target spot and stuff like that. And so I would highly encourage, now I know money's tight, Lord knows I know it is, but any type of software or any type of advice that y'all can get to help y'all monitor soil moisture and stuff like that, I think they're a good idea. And, like I said, because you just never know, it's a lot easier to plant it whenever you got a pivot versus stretching out poly pipe. You committed once you start watering down the middle, But that's one of those things right there. I wish that I had more to talk about on it because, like I said, I just think we overwater cotton. That's about the only thing I've got to say, is just to be mindful of you could create some of your own issues by overwatering cotton.
Yeah, we water on schedules. Like, they start watering on Wednesday, trying to be done by Friday. I walk on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
They get it all sprayed and start watering right behind it.
Right.
And we're right back same schedule next week when I get back. That
Right.
way nobody has to work on the weekend.
Right.
You all
Right.
go to the Razorback game or wherever.
Right. I got you.
Lake, whatever.
There, just some other considerations to be thinking about at this time of the year, before it gets in, time to plant cotton in April. I don't know that we've ever had a time in our lives that labels mean more. Labels, you know, we used to say, well, I know we got this much acephate we can use in a year. Well, now it means so you better read a label. You know, these dicamba labels, Ingenia labels, Enlist Duo labels, there's a lot of stiff wording in those labels. And you got to know, and Tim Ford's in the room right now, you know, it's you got to follow them. Missouri came out, was it day before yesterday? It was late last week. $1,000 an acre that you'll be fined.
We're 25,000.
Yeah,
I think.
right. So, and what I'm getting at, if Louisiana adopts something like that, I mean, you've got to know what you're doing with that label. Make sure that you're legal, because, you know, all of us can, you know, get in a bad day and have a bad, you know, scenario happen, and then you just, whoops, went off label or something. That's going to cost you now, you know, maybe more than just slap on the wrist.
We're gonna try to farm without it.
So,
It's not
but,
recommended.
and that's what I was going to say, our neonics, all that, got the bee box, pollinator box on them. You know, technically, if I'm making a recommendation, you know, you've got to know when to tell that farmer, this is when you're supposed to put out a neonic and all that. WPS, Worker Protection Standard, that has changed. All right, you're gonna have to get trained every year. If you've got a worker on your farm, you don't get a 5-day grace period anymore. They've had to be trained, and even our scouts have to be trained before they go to, I mean, the day you hire them, they're supposed to be trained. This is a big deal. Now, nothing really so much as far as the stuff has changed with it. It's still going to be wearing dust masks and wearing goggles and all that stuff. Some of the wording's a little bit more strict in terms of what we need to do to train our workers. And it's going to be an every year event. And so it's going to be something that we're going to have to pay attention to. And a lot of our training occurs this time of year. Well, I hadn't hired my scouts yet, you know, and so where am I going to go to get them trained come May when they get out of high school, you know? I've got to come up with that. You know, going to have to figure something out, aren't we? So, honeybees, I'm just going to say that. Some of y'all might like honeybees in here, so I better just keep my mouth shut about that. Trey Price and I looked at this field. I'm glad we brought this up. That was a field of cotton in Tensall Parish in 2014. Called Trey, and I said, we are smoothed up with target spot. It's one of those things, go out on a Monday, you see the lesions. By Friday, it looked like a pine thicket you were talking about last night. It was just canopy and everything was bare underneath it. And it came in late. You remember, it was the end of August. You know, I mean, it was so wet in this field, the cotton roots, cotton hairs growing up out of the ground because it was so wet. You know, they were having to get air. And got out there, Trey and I looked at it, and that cotton picked well in excess of 3 bales to the acre, and it was as eat up a target spot at that time. But it came in late. You know, it came in late. But so it's scenario based what can happen with you with target spot. But that was one of the success stories we had right there, was that we actually made a decent crop in spite of it. So if y'all got questions, insults, anything like that, y'all have at it. If not, y'all can be dismissed. So
You said you watered too early. I think you watered too early and watered too late. What would you say that would be a recommendation, or you would prefer?
Well, I think a lot of the yield loss that we're seeing from watering too early and too late is getting cotton too tall, creating an environment for target. But I think a lot of the yield increases that we're seeing in things are because target spot is hurting us. So in the old days, when we really didn't have this problem, I think variety for bread better is a good word. We didn't have, it seemed like we could push cotton a lot more. I mean, I got one guy running 200 units an acre last year. But it's my best cotton. It's
Yeah.
also planted April 1st.
yeah,
One of them's March 31st. Up there, you don't do that and get away with it very often. But generally speaking, I think we need to delay the water a little bit. I think it's causing our cotton to get too tall. I think stressing it early is gonna help a little bit. I
That's-
think, this variable rate seeding is gonna really help eliminate some of the target spot issue. If we can just delay it a week, it means all the difference will work. And when it comes in July, from where we get hammered, if we can get it to the second week of August, we're home for my worst, my absolute poster child for target spot. The field of 15-18, I have pictures all over Twitter. It picked 15-33. You know, put out 2 shots of cracks on my best cotton, worst cotton there. The worst target spot I had, best cotton there.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. There's no way to find it.
You know, and the funny thing about this field in particular, this is on Highway 65. I'm sure y'all all probably know pretty close to where this is. If you were to drive by that field, you would think, man, what a pretty field. But you walk out there 3 foot in that field, and it was like, what, nothing hitting your legs but bowls, you know. And it was just a sick feeling, because I'd never encountered anything like that, you know. Reminded me of loopers back in the day.
That was the first
you know.
year I remember it getting, that was 2014, that was the first year I remember target spot getting real bad. Some of the old timers told me they'd seen it a couple times. Ray Young said he'd seen it a couple times over the years, but for whatever reason, we got it.
If it comes delayed, it actually can be beneficial, reducing bowl rods. It's
Hey,
kind
you
of
know,
like
I
the
get-
bottom defoliation they did.
Well,
back
that's
in
why I said we used to always
50
pray
years
for a
ago.
few loopers to come in back in the day, just kind of open it up down there. And I you know, because like I said, that's what we were saying, the conditions that cause this are more prone to get bowl rot, and so you just gotta. But I think some of it too. I mean, if you've got a late planted field of cotton, say if you're into May getting some cotton planted, and then you've got cotton at the right size and the right stage, and then it gets target spot, and those bowls aren't but half grown, and then you start shedding leaves then, that you're hurt then. You're hurt. So, and it sneaks up on you too dang fast. I mean, you go from seeing just a lesion or two to you're done in a week, you know, so.
Talked about irrigating too early, you know, that picture you had for the irrigation, the cotton wasn't even lap the middles, that's too early.
I think,
I mean,
yeah.
basically, yeah.
We start right there.
It's, you know, well, I would say around bloom.
Water the heck out of it when it's starting to bloom and let
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, if you're watering pre-bloom, it better be in a bind, you know, because so. But in our intervals too, and that may be more what I'm interested in. Like our intervals in between waterings, they're probably a little tight, you know. So, thank you guys.
Thanks, Hank.
In full,